Hi, I'm the Reverend Dr. William L. Johnson III. I am a chaplain here at the Christian Hospital Northeast in St. Louis, Missouri. It is a great privilege to be able to share with you these messages of encouragement and certainly these messages of inspiration. We hope that both apply. We are so glad to be able to share in these messages. We have now tried to coin them as messages of the day from the Reverend Dr. J. I don't know if that rhymes. I don't even know if it makes sense, but I'm having fun with sharing these messages with you. As always, we want you to know that no matter where you work and where you serve, whether it's in the hospital or outside the hospital, whatever your vocation, whether it be in an ecclesial form or whether it is that you're on your day-to-day grind at work, raising your family, taking care of your loved ones, trying to drive through traffic, whatever it is that you're doing, we want you to know that you are loved, you are appreciated, and you are irreplaceable. That's a fact. And as we share these messages, we also want to encourage you to give us feedback like some of you have and share with us what your thoughts are about these messages. You can leave those messages or emails with us at william.johnson@bjc.org. That will come to me. I'll have a chance to kind of look at them and really appreciate your feedback as we try to do better in sharing these messages with you. Well, today's message is entitled, When the Whole World Has Gone Crazy. When the whole world has gone crazy. I know we ought not use words like crazy and those sorts of things, but I don't really have good words to describe all that's happening around the world and in our very communities and homes. It seems as if those things that are normal courtesies that we share with one another have now found a world that is tense, seemingly angry, seemingly frustrated, seemingly discombobulated. Those who would normally be nice and kind are tense and terse. It seems that the world, in some ways, have plain old gone crazy. And that's not offense to those who might find themselves with mental illness. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is those things that would normally have us live in a civil way, no longer being civil. It's as if that our days are inundated with the heaviness of life. We are in a peculiar, unprecedented time, it seems, where at every turn, our institutions, our communities, our families, everything that we thought we could count on and everything that we thought would always hold up, sometimes seems to struggle, just trying to get by. And we realize that we are in a different place, that everywhere we look, and even those of us who have dependence upon our money and our careers, or the institutions of government, or the institutions of our church or faith traditions, or even our own family structures, seem to be rickety at best and not able to hold up in the midst of all of this. I remember reading a book many years ago as a young seminarian, as I started reading the book by John Bunyan. He was one of the great, I would say theologians, but the great writers of faith back in the 1600s. And I would give you a story about John Bunyan, but John Bunyan wrote a story while he was in prison, fell asleep and woke up and wrote this allegory while in jail. Yes, in jail. And while he was there, he wrote a story entitled The Pilgrim's Progress, where he chronicles one character all the way through life, even into the afterlife. And it seems there was a place in a scene where that character came upon what they call the Slough of Despond, or the Slough of Despondency, a swamp, if you will, where people would sink in and maybe never return, and maybe not even return, but if they ever made it out, they wouldn't go forward with their dreams or their aspiration or their goal that they were trying to reach, but usually find themselves in a place of despondency. And I think that's what I mean by when the world goes crazy. It seems that the world has found itself in a place of despondency, a swamp, if you will, not able to get itself out of it. And it doesn't matter where you look, it doesn't matter how it looks. There are shining lights everywhere, but every now and then the whole world, if you take a look at the whole world, it seems like we're trudging through a very difficult place. And so the question for us today, while we are trying to exist in this world, even for our own selves, I don't know if you've gotten up or awakened, and just didn't feel quite like yourself, just the drudgery and the heaviness of life. Lots of grief, lots of violence, lots of things around that we hear in the news and we see around us, even with the pandemic, making us feel like we can't be ourselves and live our lives, make us feel like we're in this very crazy world and not knowing if there's a solution or a way out. Well, I am glad to share with you this message. And it is an important one because I think these words actually speak to us today. And they come from the 43rd chapter of the book of Isaiah. And I'm only going to read probably a verse or two that I think might be helpful here, not here. Verse 41 and 42, I think may speak to what it is I'm trying to say. But now, thus says the Lord, who created you, O Jacob, and he who formed you, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. And here's the key verse that I want to share. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, nor shall the flame scorch you. I love that message. If you take it away in the context, it means the message from Isaiah is talking to a people who are on their way into exile. Life is really difficult. They've lost the sense of everything that they've known. Their homes have been burned and sacked. Their communities have been destroyed. They are now on their way into Babylonian captivity. And while they're on their way into captivity, God sends a message to them to remind them that they still belong to him. God says to them, you still belong to me. And I have called you by name. You are mine. And what a message that is when we're going through a world that seems to be going crazy, that it is encouraging, at least to me, to know that I don't belong to myself, nor am I out here alone, but I belong to my Creator who made me. Yes, little old me. Who grew up here in St. Louis, Missouri. God says to me, my name may not be what the text says, but God says to me, I'm going to apply it to myself. I know you, I called you by name, and you are mine. And in fact, when you go through the waters, you shall not drown. And when you go through fire, you shall not be burned or scorched. In other words, the trials of life, the craziness of life, the chaos around us, the difficulties we face, the news we get on the phone when in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. about a loved one, or the fact that we look in our bank accounts and we are spending more than we make, or the fact that we are trying our best to hold things together, borrowing from one person to try to pay another person, or finding ourselves in a place where it seems that even to move around is difficult. My mom always reminds me that there's always something, right? Once you get your car going, then, it seems that something's going on at home. And once you get home okay, it means that something is going on at work. And when you get work okay, it means something is going on at your faith community. And if something is happening at your faith community, then your body starts to ache and things start going on. In other words, it seems that all of these things are converging almost at one time for many people, and it seems like it's gone crazy. Our worlds have gone crazy. But we're encouraged because the one who created you, the one who loves you, the one who knows your name, the one who's known all about you, it says, I know you and you are mine. And when you go through the most difficult moments of your life, I will be with you. Yeah. And all the things that should destroy you won't. When you go through the flood, it won't drown you. You won't be overwhelmed. And when you go through the fire that should test you and scorch you and destroy everything that you have and everything that you are, you won't be burned. You won't be scorched. You'll come out different, maybe, but better. So I want to talk about what to do when the world goes crazy. When the world goes crazy, I think I at least came up with at least three things I think that are important. When the world goes crazy, first of all, be patient. Yeah. I don't know about you, but my faith tradition reminds me from songs, gospel songs, other things, traditions. I don't know where all of this comes from, but it fed my soul and still feeds my soul. That someone used to sing, I'm so glad that trouble don't last always. Things don't always have to be the way they are. And even if it may be difficult today, it will always be difficult. In fact, somewhere in the scripture, it would say, weeping may endure for night, but joy comes in the morning. In other words, there will be a transition. So be patient with things. Be patient with yourself, be patient with those around you, and be patient with God. And in those moments when it's most difficult, is the time to exercise the most patience. I know. That's the moment where it's hardest to be patient because we really need things in a hurry. Bills are due. Family is in crises. Trouble is coming. You've heard the threats here and there. Things have to happen in a hurry. People are trying to get there and solve their own problems. But the reason why you can be patient is because you know who you are and you know that God has said, you are mine. It's God's responsibility to take care of us. Yes, our responsibility to do what we can. Not saying we are absolving ourselves from responsibility, but ultimately our Creator knows what's happening around us. And God's responsibility to take us through the fire. Didn't say you wouldn't have to go in the fire, and it didn't say you wouldn't have to go in the flood, but while you're there, be patient. You'll make it out. Secondly, not only should you be patient, but you should also, I want to remind you, be principled. When the world has gone crazy, be principled. In other words, don't lose your mind and go crazy with the world that's gone crazy. In other words, you still have faculty. You know right from wrong. You know good from bad. You know how to treat people. You don't have to be ugly. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be terse. You don't have to be unforgiving. You can still be the person that you are. In other words, being principled means don't let the craziness change you. They may act crazy, but you don't have to. For I have learned, if I haven't learned anything else, being principled in the time of an unprincipled nation or an unprincipled community or an unprincipled situation does not mean we absolve ourselves from that which is our own convictions and our own values. So if you were going to love, keep on loving, even if they don't love you back. If you're going to be good to people, keep being good to people, even if they're not good to you back. Don't let it change you. Because the only thing that matters is that when you and your Creator meet eye to eye, that you were the person that God made you to be. And that's important. Be principled. So I said two things. Be patient, be principled, and I'll leave you with this last one. I think it's a bonus one. Be peaceful. When the world goes crazy, be peaceful. Let me say it another way. Be full of peace. There's a difference between acting kind and with a certain degree of peacefulness, or not being aggressive. In other words, I'm not asking you to be passive. I'm encouraging you that when the world goes crazy, be full of peace. because the peace on the inside cannot be disturbed or taken away from what's happening on the outside. And you just might discover that the peace that you have, as Paul writes, surpasses all understanding, and it will guard your heart and your mind in God. You'll discover that in the midst of that journey, when the world goes crazy, when people are looking for peace embodied in someone else, they'll see it in you. Yeah, be peaceful. I know it seems that in these times, everyone seems to have allowed the craziness of the world to make them a little crazy. And that goes for all of us. I know that sometimes I have to have a wellness check for myself to check and see whether or not I've gone a little crazy with the craziness of the world in order to survive. But I want to say to you that you'll survive regardless. Why? Because I told you earlier, the one who created you said, "You are mine." And when you go through all of this, the waters and the difficulties, I will be with you. That's a comfort for me. And every now and then, I have a God sighting. I sense God showing up just when I'm about to give it up. God shows up. And I heard John P. Key say, God will show up on time. If there be anyone who's going through, I have the answer for you. Just keep the faith and you will see. You will discover that God will show up on time. I don't know if it's on time according to your schedule. And I'm not trying to say God will prevent tragedy and struggle from happening. Not saying that at all. What I am saying is that if I cannot make it, and if I'm not going to cross over the slough of despond, if I'm not going to get through the swamp, then I'd rather go down with God than go down without God. That's me. I don't know about you, but that's what I mean by hanging in there when the world goes crazy. But I believe that when you hold on, when the world goes crazy, you won't. And when the world gets out of hand, you'll be in hand. And when the world has given up, you'll be able to stand. So I want to encourage you today with these words. I hope they're an inspiration to you, and I hope they're an encouragement to you. Hang in there. Don't worry about the flood. You won't drown. And don't worry about the fire. It won't burn you up. But what you'll discover is that you'll be better on the other side. Thank you for giving me your time and reminding you that when the world goes crazy, we don't have to. Thanks. We'll see you next week. Have a great week. Remember, you're loved, you're appreciated, and you're irreplaceable. Take care.